Hello and welcome back to the ENRG Health and Fitness podcast. I murdered a rock, injured a stone, hospitalized a brick. I'm so mean, I make medicine sick. That is a quote from Muhammad Ali, and it's possibly one of my favorite quotes ever. And that's exactly what the theme of today's podcast is going to be about, our idols and inspirations. Today, I'm joined by my co-hosts, Jamie McIntosh.
Hello.
And Taylor Murray.
Hello.
So we'll start off this show as we always do by talking about what we've been up to in the past week. And let's go to Taylor first.
Yeah, so in the past week, I've actually been relatively busy, considering the week before I couldn't really do much because my the weather wasn't the greatest. It was my bike was broken, the weather wasn't the greatest. There was a reason why I didn't do much, but since the weather was scorching this week, I managed to get out my bike, and yeah, it was great to be back out. I think it was on Friday I was out my bike, managed to do just a little bit of climbing, a little bit of distance in the bike, nothing too crazy, just like, I think I was just under 9 miles and just over 1,000 feet I climbed out the bike. But then on Tuesday, I climbed Tinto Hill. That was something I hadn't done in a while and was, put it this way, it was really, really tiring. I didn't expect it because it's been a few years since I'd done that, and I thought, it can't be that hard. I was wrong.
The weather was good that day, eh? It was quite nice.
Oh yeah, that's the thing is, it was really warm when I was doing it, so I was like, I was panting, I was actually sweating, and then it got to the point where I forgot exactly. There's like two stages where you get to like the middle part, and then you go up another steep bit. I thought I got to the top. I was like, right, managed to do it in just under an hour. That was pretty impressive. And then I just literally looked over and went, I'm not at the top. Oh no.
There's another bit to go.
So yeah, I think it was an hour and 15 minutes it took me to get up, but it was something else, I put it that way, but it was really enjoyable. I have to say, I felt great afterwards.
It's worth it for the views alone, isn't it?
No, there's the views alone, definitely worth it.
One of the best bits about Scotland. Jamie, what have you been up to?
Yeah, not an awful lot. I don't mind telling you that I did have a few beers over the weekend. Yesterday as well, celebrated the first day of the pubs reopening in Scotland, obviously. Yesterday was a big day actually up here in Scotland, obviously, because that was kind of the first day you were allowed kind of indoor exercises in places like gyms. Indoor swimming pools have opened up as well. So it felt like a big step forward, I think, in Scotland yesterday with regards to kind of the current restrictions. But certainly a good day yesterday for the health and fitness industry, and a long time coming it's been. Had my swim this morning. But yesterday I managed to break the heavy bag in the garage.
The punch?
I mean, it was clearly on the way out. There was clearly a screw loose somewhere, but must have just worn it down eventually. And like many of my future opponents, it hit the canvas and broke.
Is it like that scene in the first Avengers film when we come in Captain America and he's battering the punch bag and he just sends it flying and then he just lifts up another one that he just hankers onto it. Just got that in my head. Yeah. My Snapchat and Instagram was just full of people going back to the gyms and stuff yesterday, and I was just like, I know this is a health and fitness website, but I was expecting more pictures of people being at the pubs, to be perfectly honest, given yesterday and the restrictions and that.
It's an interesting sign, actually, just like the comparison between kind of the numbers that went to the pubs and the numbers that went to the gyms. Obviously, you can do both in the same day, obviously, if you go to the gym first, but yeah, I was a wee bit surprised.
Yeah, no, I think it's a sign of basically lockdown was done. People have just been that excited to get out and back to exercises that they've enjoyed. They've probably enjoyed it more. They're probably sick of sitting just drinking because that's what no doubt most of us have done throughout this full lockdown. So yeah, it was definitely a sign of maybe could that be a culture change, by the way? I doubt it. It's Scotland, let's be honest.
We know the country. I think the social element, of course, was like big. I think for both going to the gyms and going to the pub, just getting to see people once again. This past week I did my final run before I start May. I decided I was going to take the end of this week off, and I think the last thing I wanted to do was pick up any sort of injury or niggle before I start going 5k a day. So I went out for the first time with my brother, which was quite fun. It was absolutely roasting, and I came back home and I hadn't realized the top of my thighs were totally sunburned from being out on the run. I don't know if my camera's picking it up, but I also caught the sun on my face. My arms are a bit red as well. It's I don't tan, I burn, and I don't often burn, but it was just quite funny to come back, and so it's just nice to have good weather again. So I'm I'm taking it easy now. I am, as of recording this, it's the 27th of April, so I'm now 4 days away from taking on my plant-based diet. I am already starting on meal preparation and stuff, so it's definitely going to be something. And for all of our activities, you can keep up with our social media accounts, both Instagram and Twitter at ENRG Health and Fitness. So we'll get on to the main topic of today's show, as I previously quoted Muhammad Ali, and it's going to be talking about inspirations and idols. Now, quite often, whenever we associate ourselves with music, with films, with sport, we have a favorite. We have a favorite film, a favorite actor, a favorite song, a favorite artist, and a favorite athlete often. And quite often we take inspiration from these idols. And I think for me, one of these people is Cristiano Ronaldo. For me, I'm a big football fan. I think we all enjoy football here. And in the past, I always used to idolize him for what he could do on the pitch and how good a player he was. But as his career's gone on, I've started to appreciate how good of an athlete he is. The fact that he's now 36, he'll be 37 come around next February, and he's still playing at the highest level. And if you take into consideration, quite often a lot of players, in football, in that position, playing up front, don't really continue at the highest level. You're some of the greatest players of all time. Pele internationally retired at the age of 30. Zidane retired at 36. Iniesta went to the Japanese league around 34. Some of the greatest names in football, and it just doesn't look like Ronaldo's slowing up. If you watched him on the pitch, you'd see what an athlete he is. You wouldn't think for a second that he's the wrong side of 30, approaching 40, because he's absolutely incredible, and he's still able to play, at the highest level, entertain people. And I think, from my point of view, I always think like, oh, can I ever get to that level? Can I ever get to that fitness? Is it too late for me to get in shape and whatever? And then you think about somebody like him, who's in his 30s, and he's still going strong. He doesn't look like he's going to slow up. And it's just one of these ones that I think even sport a lot now, across all sport, people are going closer to their 40s. People are still playing at a very high level and are still improving. I think 10, 15 years ago in sport, once somebody hit 30, you'd quite often say, oh, that's them finished, that's them on the downward slope now. But in another footballer who I look to is somebody like Zlatan Ibrahimovic, who's going to be 40 this year, and he's recently signed a new contract to keep playing with AC Milan. And you just think, that's unbelievable that age to still be playing regularly and have absolutely no issues whatsoever. So I think in a footballing sense, I think those two would be some of my idols anyway. What about you guys?
Same as you. I'm heavily into football. It's something I've grew up and I'm a big lover of, and it is something that when I look at my idols, I look at exactly what they do, and I try to basically imitate that. Basically, hopefully, just obviously I know I don't have the ability that they do, but I want to perform probably what they do on and off to give me the best chance, fitness wise. But going on someone, maybe if we're not on a fitness aspect, but going to something that I idolise just on pure ability, and something that helped me, focus on football as a whole, was Ronaldinho. It's actually the man that made me see fall in love with the sport. I ended up seeing him do stuff with a football that I'd never seen anyone else do before. The sheer skill that guy had in his feet amazed me, and just he made it look so easy, and it genuinely made me as a young kid believe that I could do this at any stage. And it made me go out the back and practice for hours, just trying, silly flicks, just trying rainbow flicks and all that, all because I watched Ronaldinho do it. And it actually, when I look back on it now, kind of shows how much an impact he actually had in my life when it came to that young stage of football. How much stuff I actually tried subconsciously because I seen him do it, and I seen players, learn from him do that as well. So it's a player that I admired. It's a player that I actually was gutted to see when he stopped playing football, because he just was so skillful, and I generally is an idol in that sport for that sense. But when it comes to the fitness aspect side, it's another player I look into football as Sergio Ramos. He's a guy who just emasculates winning. He knows how to win, and he even treats himself off the pitch as a winner. He is now approaching, I'm pretty sure, 34, 35, but he's still, built, he's still fit as anything. And going by the latest reports, I'm pretty sure he's still one of the highest, is still in the top bracket, of your fitness tests, which, for someone that age is ridiculous to even, be ahead of folk like you've got your Vinicius Juniors and you've got like your Perez's and all that. And it's like, it's kind of a testament to him, how well he's treated his body. And taking stuff from him, learning how he's managed to keep on top of his A game for so long, is a credit. And honestly, like, just off the pitch, the way he treats his body is like a temple, and it's something that I try to, guide myself towards, because I don't think I've got the mental strength that he does to do it, because it does take some mental strength, the amount of sacrifices you take having to get your body in that position. But I try my best, to push myself, knowing the fact is, if he can do it, I can do it. Like, there's nothing that's stopped him getting to that stage, getting to that physical point in his body. So why would it stop me? So that is another reason why I idolise him, and also helps the fact he's into football. So that's the bonus side.
Yeah, I always think Ramos is just like, he's one of these players that sort of just defies his age. You always sort of forget how old he is now. I still remember thinking back to the 2010 World Cup with Spain, and he was playing there. And you think now, and there probably is an argument that he is still the best defender in world football, 11 years on from winning the World Cup, which I think is absolutely incredible. And arguably the most important player to his current Real Madrid team. And I think he is the captain of the national side as well. I think he's almost the most capped player. I think he's approaching that now. He takes penalties. I think it's just incredible how he's still going. And as you say, his fitness levels are unbelievable. And I think that for kids growing up is not really something that we think about. We just think about the player on the pitch. But I think as we get older, we sort of appreciate he's doing that in his 30s. He's doing that at 35, sort of thing. He's been playing regularly for almost 20 years. And he's still going at such a high level. And I think it's just incredible, really. I think it's just the older you get and sort of the more you learn about your own body, the more you start to appreciate how good some of these athletes are. And it's not just in, football. We see it in all kinds of sport, where we see the Olympics and people are going, well into their 30s still competing. And I think it's incredible. One person who actually is on a plant-based diet now, or is trying to approach one, is Arnold Schwarzenegger, who's approaching his 70s now. And he's said that arguably is in the best shape of his life, because of this. And I think it's absolutely crazy that at that age he's still going strong and he's still working out regularly, and it's just inspirational. Jamie, what about yourself?
Yeah, the one thing I'll say about Ramos before I move on there is I think it's kind of testament to him that he's a defender, obviously, and certainly when you're younger anyway, I think that you often look up to players that are forwards or sometimes midfielders. I know Ronaldo you could technically class as a midfielder, Lampard, Gerrard, that there are midfielders in there obviously, but I just think that you very rarely, or more often than not anyway, you see an attacking player kind of mentioned in that regard. So I think it's a testament to Ramos that he's kind of one of the few defenders, I would say, that are kind of spoken about as highly as he is. So you've both named footballers. I'll give you two boxers, two very different boxers in terms of style. They're in the same division, and we're hoping to see them fight this year, later in the year. And it is, of course, Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury. So Anthony Joshua, we speak about conditioning. Anthony Joshua's body is, literally a temple. It is ridiculous how ripped that guy is. As for Tyson Fury, he's been to hell and back. And he was on top of the world, then he was right at the very bottom of the world, tried to take his own life, and then as obviously got back up to heavyweight champion of the world. So I think it kind of says it all, really.
Yeah, I think Tyson Fury is such an idol, honestly. Like what he's done to come back, I think is fantastic, and I think a lot of people are looking forward to that fight, probably more than any in recent years. I'm not the biggest boxing fan, but it's definitely stories that I have followed, and I think almost the athletes themselves can draw people into the sport. If you know what I mean, I think what they do can bring people in to actually watch them, and I think it's absolutely fantastic. It's maybe going to sound quite silly for me, but somebody who I actually looked up to as a kid was obviously this fake Rocky Balboa, Sylvester Stallone in the films, and it was always my older brother who would watch them, and then I'd sort of watch them, and obviously I didn't really understand the story and stuff like that, but I always used to think it was really inspirational. This relatively unknown rookie suddenly rises to the top of the boxing world and stuff like that. And obviously that's a fake story, it didn't actually happen. But I think even through things like films and that, we can see and find inspirations in life, to be honest.
Definitely. I think there's loads of films like that. There's, even the like the goal films and that with Santiago Munez, and he comes from the streets in Mexico, and then he's playing in front of Newcastle and then Real Madrid and then for his country. And so I think there's certainly a lot of inspiration to take out of films. And kind of draws you to certain sports, I think, as well. So I think obviously football is the kind of main one, but I think there are quite a lot of boxing ones. You speak about the Rocky ones as well. Creed obviously came from the Rocky kind of franchise as well. But I think football and boxing, I would say, are two kind of, and probably athletics of some sort as well, actually. But I think they're the kind of main ones where you would see inspiration from sport and film.
As you just said there, by a film that actual captures that inspiration to do sports that probably, as you say, can bring people into it, was actually one that I've never tried, but it's one that I actually ended up for a while watching when I was younger because of the full film. But Cool Runnings, have any of you watched it?
I was thinking you were going to say that.
Yeah.
I love Cool Runnings.
Watching
That's one
Cool
of my favorite
Runnings
films.
ended up when I was about 10, 11, 12, after I watched that, when it came into the Winter Olympics and that, I was watching the bobsleigh like pure with like passion, all because of that film. And it's quite scary knowing that a film had that much impact on you, knowing it was a fake film, you know. It was actually based on, I'm pretty sure it was a real story, but it was basically a fake scenario where this has happened. You had never heard it, but yet you're now enticed into a sport. And every time I watch a Winter Olympics, I'm immediately always drawn to the bobsleigh first out of anything, which is really testament to that film because it's done what it's highlighted a story and it's made people interested. So yeah, it just shows you the power of what sport can have within a film.
Yeah, I think Cool Runnings is one of these. It's one of these films that, like, in my household, just like my family, we quote regularly, just certain lines from it and stuff like that. And I think it just has such a big impact on just how impressive it is. You know, these guys who were going to be runners didn't work out, went on to bobsleigh, and it's just such a good film. I think it is really inspiring, and it's sort of one of those ones that you watch because it is a comedy. It's a funny film, but then at the same time, there's so much to take away from it. It is just. It's just really enjoyable, I think, and I would definitely recommend it to anybody out there who's looking for a film. Cool Runnings, unbelievable film. Yeah, so one of the things as well that's coming up this summer is the Olympics. You know, it was delayed, of course, last year due to COVID, so that will be coming this summer. And I feel it's one of these events as well where a lot of people can discover not only sports that they find interesting, but also at certain athletes in the sport who you think, oh my God, that's incredible. You know, I was too young at the time when Usain Bolt burst onto the scene in Beijing 2008, but I can imagine at the time just seeing how good he was. I reckon he probably inspired so many thousands of people to take up running just because, oh my God, look how fast this guy is. You know, that's absolutely incredible. And I think people, you know, like Phelps and swimming and stuff like that, quite often when we associate these sports, we think of who the great Olympic athletes were of them. And then we often refer back to that as being, you know, oh, I'd want to be a swimmer. You know, I'll never be as good as Michael Phelps, but I'd love to be, you know, I'd love to be a swimmer. I'd love to run. I'd love to be as good as Usain Bolt, you know, cycle, be as good as Chris Hoy. I think we all have these idols and inspirations. And then through these idols, we sort of learn about, you know, their routines. You know, I've looked up so many athletes in the past just to see what their diets are. I remember learning about Dwayne Johnson, the Rocks, a few years ago, and just how intense his diet and workout regime and stuff like that is. And then I think, you know, this guy is 260 pounds, and it's just muscle. The guy is absolutely incredible. And even he's, you know, going in quite late. And I'm gonna finish on one last athlete who I've been debating whether to say this or not, because I'm not 100% sure, but it's Mark Calloway, who known in the WWE universe as The Undertaker, who wrestled well into his 50s. And there's a documentary actually on the WWE network called The Last Ride, and it's basically about how his career came to an end and what he went through and some of the training and the surgeries that he's gone under, you know, in his 50s, still to be able to do it because, you know, he loves wrestling. It's almost one of these things that, you know, he just can't stop because he's so good, he's so loved, he just loves the industry. And just to see how much, you know, his body's gone through over the years and how much he still continues to drive to come back to it. He has retired now. I think he's 56 he turns this year, so quite understandable. But even when you watch him as a fan, you never really think about anything. You know, he's just the Undertaker. But then when you learn more about him, you know, he's a man in his 50s. He's gone through so much work to get where he is, to continue to be where he is. You know, I think he made his wrestling debut back in the late 80s, early 90s. You know, he was wrestling all the way up to 2020, which is absolutely ridiculous. A 30-year career span, to be honest, knowing that you already normally start in your 20s in said sport is, yeah, I think it's absolutely fantastic. And I think I'll just give a little shout out to him. Obviously, not many people would think about wrestlers, but I think just the conditioning that he's put himself through over the years is pretty unbelievable, to be honest. And speaking of idols, that's something that we incorporate into our website. On our homepage, we have some quotes of some of our famous athletes in the past, just to inspire people. You know, I started this podcast off with a Muhammad Ali quote, which I absolutely love. You know what? Speaking of Rocky Balboa earlier on, there's a quote in the fifth film, I believe it is, where he's talking to his son, and he's saying it's not how hard you can hit, it's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. It might actually be the sixth film. But I think just these quotes just sort of inspire you and you think about it. So that's what we've tried to do. We've tried to bring some quotes of our favorite athletes in the world of health and fitness, really, and just hope that as they inspire us, they can also inspire you. And I think that's all I've got to say today. Taylor, Jamie, do you guys have anything else to say?
No, I'm pretty sure you covered up majority there. I was going to talk about how that quote you said, it's not about how hard you get hit. It's not about how much you get hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and get back up. So I think that emasculates everything. And that is actually one of the things that going through high school, I struggled to motivate myself, and that was genuinely, I always listened to like motivational quotes, motivational speeches and that to help me study and all that. It didn't really work all the time, but it was when I was in the mood for it, it generally did inspire me. And that's one of the ones that's always stuck with me. So, and I try to, use that as much as I can for sports.
Jamie, you got anything?
No, all good. Summed it up for me nicely there, guys.
All right, cool. Well, I think this is going to be the final podcast that will come out before our website does go live. This is the 4th episode, so you can find us on YouTube at ENRG Health and Fitness, or of course you can go to our website when it's live, ENRG Health and Fitness, and you can find all of our podcasts there. But now it's a goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
Goodbye.
And we'll see you next time.